Good morning, everybody. Good morning, good morning. Happy Tuesday. How you guys doing today? All right, it was good to see you guys all ready. Did you enjoy the long weekend? Yes. Not at all? Okay, I'm sorry. Sorry to hear. Well, again, we have a very special visitor today. We have a very special event, so I'm glad that you guys are ready to hear what you're going to hear from our guest author. And we also, again, give one big round of applause. We have a lot of people watching online, so give them a round of applause to all the schools across the district. So we have elementary schools all across North Lamarada. Thank you for tuning in. We also have some schools from La Habra City School District, so thank you guys for tuning in as well. We have enabled the chat. So if in the chat right now, could you tell us where you're coming from, if it's your school, if it's your teacher, and the grade. We kind of want to go through the chat. Sheila Bair would like to interact a little bit with you guys. After she reads both of her books, we can have any questions that you guys have, drop them in the chat. I'll be scrolling through and reading them so that they can hear their questions, and Sheila can answer directly to the kiddos at the other schools. Those that are sitting in the room, we'll take a couple questions from you guys live as well. Deal? Now, some ground rules. Because we are a PBIS school, we want everyone to be respectful for our guest. So when she's sitting here reading, we are listening, eyes watching, mouth closed. Deal? Thumbs up if you're with me. All right. We also have a couple guests in the house, so when I say their name, let's ask them to stand. We have a board member, Chris Staples. Give him a round of applause. We have Assistant Superintendent, Dr. Savar. Give her applause. We have President of NDC, Faith Batista. Give her applause. And Chief of our Executive Staff, Ariel. Give her a round of applause as well. Then we have some district staff. So we have Dr. Jung. We have Ernesto Centeno. And then our whole IT crew is too many to name, but thank the IT. They're huge in making this success. Our PR guy, Chris Hargraves, in the house. What's going on, Chris? And then our production team. Wait, is someone else? I'll get there. And our production team, Joe from Patriot Video, am I correct? And his right-hand man, Paul. Thank you guys so much. We couldn't do this without you. And then we also have NDC's photographer, videographer. I forget his name, but he is getting all the behind the scenes. So thank you guys so much. And give yourselves a round of applause since we gave it up for everyone else. All right, I'm going to introduce Pastor Jack Miranda. He's going to come and introduce our speaker and tell you guys a little bit about financial literacy. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Principal Ramsey. Thank you, Eastwood, for hosting us. I'm actually, one of my primary roles is I'm a grandparent. And most of my children and my grandchildren were Eastwood Eagles. And so I'm a chairperson for the National Diversity Coalition. You can guess that I have a granddaughter here right now. I won't embarrass her, but she does belong. And I don't know that we gave a shout out to ETV, Eastwood TV. These are the students who are actually helping produce this. And so, hello, all your schools. I'm going to introduce you to a very, very, very important person. You may not have heard of her yourself, but when she walks into a bank, any bank from the east to the west, the president's backs go straight. She's a regulator, a former regulator. She makes sure the banks are following some of the rules that have been set in order to be fair. Do you know what the banks do? What do the banks do? Somebody, what do the banks do? They keep our money, and they better be good about it. And so Dr. Sheila Bair is here. Here's her title, former chairperson of the Federal Depository Insurance Corporation, FDIC. You'll see that in every bank that you walk into, FDIC. I want to introduce her. This is why we're here. Students in the other schools, this is why we're here. We want you to be book smart. We want you to be streetwise, but we really want you to be money smart as well. And so we want our scholars, you're our young scholars, to be money smart. And that's why we invited Dr. Bair to come and read out of her series of books. These are books that are at your level of understanding. They're cartoon, they're poetic, they rhyme. And she's going to read a couple of those, and then we're going to ask her some questions. So can we give her a really welcome applause as she comes up? Thank you, Dr. Bair.
Pastor Jack, that was an amazing introduction. And hello, Eagles. Welcome all the other schools that are listening remotely. I'm really happy to be here. So as Pastor Jack said, I used to be the chair of an organization called the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, or FDIC. How many of you ever been to a bank? You ever been to a bank with your parents? Yeah, okay, good. Oh, more. How many of you have bank accounts? That's great, that's great. So next time you go to the bank, look for a sign that says FDIC insured. All banks are required to display that. And that's very important, you know, because banks are a really safe place to keep your money. You want to keep your money safe, right? You work hard for your money. You don't want to lose it unnecessarily. So wherever you put it, you want to make sure they're taking good care of it. And banks do a really, really good job of taking care of your money. But every once in a while, they make a mistake. And they lose some of your money. And that's when it's the job of the FDIC to move in and make sure you can get all the money that you put in your deposit account at the bank. Now, that protection, that promise that the FDIC makes to people who put their money in the bank to protect it, it's not unlimited. There's a dollar cap on how much the FDIC will protect. Does anybody want to guess what that amount is? Yeah, what do you think? 20, a little bit higher. Yeah, back there, what do you think? Sorry? Oh my gosh, there, give that man a round of applause. All right, all right. That's exactly right, 250,000. So most of us don't have nearly that much in a bank. So that's more than ample to protect us. But it is important, some people do, and it's important to know what the insured deposit limits are, that 250,000. Now, you know another nice thing when you put money into a bank? They'll pay you a little extra called interest. So just for putting your money into the bank, if you leave it there, every year they'll pay you, sometimes monthly, they'll pay you a little extra money just for keeping that money in the bank. So that's nice. You get interest just for leaving your money in the bank. And over years, there's something called compounding. And that's kind of a complicated mathematical thing, which we don't need to get into now. But what you should understand about compounding is when you get interest, the longer you leave that money in the bank where it's earning interest, the bigger and bigger it will grow. So that's a very nice feature. Now, banks also lend money. Actually, there are a lot of businesses out there that lend money, not just banks. Usually banks are pretty good at lending money. They're pretty responsible, but there are others out there that make loans that are not always so responsible. Can anybody explain to me what it means to borrow? Sure, yeah. What does it mean to borrow? Well, that's right. You get money from somebody else, the lender, for a certain period of time. But then what happens? You have to pay it back, right? Yeah. 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 What do you think borrowing is?
I think it's like you get like some money from the bank, and you give them more interest for the money.
Well, that's very, very good, because when you save money, when you put your money in the bank and leave it, they will pay you interest. But when you borrow money, whoever loaned you that money, you will be paying them interest. And this thing called compounding that I was talking about earlier, it works in reverse when you borrow. And when you borrow, the longer you take to pay back that loan, the bigger and bigger and bigger the amount of interest you will have to pay. So that's why it's important. Sometimes it's okay to borrow. There are certain situations where that's okay, but you never want to do it unnecessarily, because borrowing costs you money. Whatever money you get, you have to pay back plus more. So a lot of people get in trouble borrowing money. It's a huge, huge problem in this country. And so the first book I want to read to you is called Billy the Borrowing Blue-Footed Booby. And it takes place on the Galapagos Islands, which is a real place off the coast of Ecuador. And there really are the animals called blue-footed boobies. They look a lot like this. So this little booby gets himself into all sorts of trouble borrowing money. So let's read the story and see what happens. Billy was a blue-footed booby who lived on the Galapagos. He loved to fish and swim and dance, but the thing he loved the most was napping in the afternoon after he'd eaten his lunch. The problem was on the Galapagos, it usually rained a bunch. He went to see the selling seal, a greedy sort of fella. He asked if Seal could help him out and sell him an umbrella. Sure, said Seal, I'm pleased to help, but this may cause you stress. The one you like cost 10 sardines, and not 1 sardine less. Billy stomped his big blue feet. 10 is way too high. It takes me weeks to catch that much. You're really a heartless guy. I'll help you out, said Selling Seal. No need to cause you trouble. Wait a month, but here's the catch. You'll have to pay me double. Will you pay me 20 sardines for instant satisfaction? Billy eagerly took the deal to nap without distraction. The next month, Billy fished and fished to get his 20 sardines. But on his way to pay off Seal, he saw his good friend Arlene. A giant tortoise, there she sat, eating a prickly green pear, cooled by a solar-powered fan fixed to the back of her chair. Billy wanted that fan so much. Where can I buy one, he asked. At Selling Seals, Arlene replied. But hurry while they still last. The booby rushed to Selling Seals, gripping his 20 sardines. But instead of paying off his loan, he bought a fan like Arlene's. Seal warned him that his unpaid debt would double in a month. 40 sardines is what you'll owe. Better get fishing at once. So Billy fished and fished and fished. He fished till his beak was sore. At last he caught 40 sardines to take to Selling Seal's store. But on the way, he saw his friend, a pink iguana named Ig, all dressed up to go to a dance, sporting a purple striped wig. Billy wanted that wig so much. Where did you get it, he asked. I got it at Seal's, Ig replied. But hurry while they still last. Billy rushed to the store and found a nice assortment of wigs. He paid 40 sardines to buy a purple one just like Ig's. Seal reminded him of his debt. It's going to double again. 80 sardines is what you'll owe. You better get fishing, my friend. So Billy fished and fished and fished. He had to give up his nap. He fished by day. He fished by night. He fished till he couldn't flap. There you go. Even the sardines are making fun of him. At last, he had 80 sardines. He took them to Selling Seals. But on the way, he saw his friend, a lava lizard named Niels. Niels was dancing by the seashore to a gray mockingbird's rap. On his feet were neon green shoes that shot light beams as he tapped. Billy wanted those shoes so much. Where did you get them, he asked. They're on sale at Seals, Niels replied. But hurry while they still last. Billy lugged his 80 sardines to Seals as fast as he could. He found the shoes and tried them on. He thought they really looked good. 80 sardines was what he paid for those light-beaming shoes. And Billy's debt doubled again. Selling Seal was amused. For Seal was making quite a lot as Billy let his debt grow. 160 fresh sardines was what the booby now owed. So Billy fished and fished and fished. He got his family to help, plunging into the deep blue sea through coral rocks and sea kelp. With help from Bess, his smarter twin, he dragged the sardines to Seal. Rubbing his fins, Seal slyly said, "Hey, Billy, here's a great deal. For 160 fresh sardines, I'll sell this anchovy grill. It cooks those tiny fish just right. It's also good to cook krill." "I love anchovies," Billy said. Seal smiled in anticipation. But Bess said, "Stop. Have you gone mad? Just do the multiplication. You already owe 16 times the cost of that umbrella. If you let it double again, you are a foolish fella." So what do you think is going to happen? What do you think he's going to do? Yep. Billy just had to buy that grill. It looked so shiny and new. That night, he entertained his friends with anchovy barbecue. Alas, he still had debt to pay, 320 sardines. He asked his friends to help him fish, first Ig, then Niels, then Arlene. He begged his family once again, but everyone told him nope. No one wanted to help him out. Like Bess, they thought him a dope. So Billy hid from selling Seal. Seal got the cops on the phone. He told them to take Billy's stuff to pay off his overdue loan. They took his fan, they took his wig, they took his tap shoes aglow. They also took his anchovy grill. The umbrella was last to go. Billy lost all to his dismay while helping Seal become rich, all because he had no control when he got a spending itch. With Bess's help, he fished again and found a store called Della's, owned by a kindly pelican who charged 5 fish for umbrellas. And from then on, he lived by this rule, even though it sounds nerdy: never borrow to buy dumb stuff and live a happy birdie. So there you go. Billy learned a pretty big lesson about borrowing and not paying your debt back, huh? Did you like the rule? Did you like the story? Good, great, okay. Well, I got one more book to read. Oh, good, I'm glad, yay. Yeah, I like Billy too. It's one of my favorites. So a lot of my books, I have 8 books total. It's called a series called Money Tales. I have 8 books total. And a lot of the books are about common mistakes people make with their money, and they lose money unnecessarily because they don't understand basics like borrowing and how you borrow and how you need to pay it back as soon as you can. People also fall victim to financial scams. You know what a scam is? Anybody know what a scam is? What's a scam? Yeah, what's a scam?
It's like if someone says, "I'll give you this for like money," then the person will give it and
They just take your money and run with it, don't they? Yeah, yeah.
give you the stuff.
Yeah, they cheat you, right, yeah. What do you think a scam is? Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, the little boy in the glasses there. Uh-huh.
All machines are scams.
What? Well, maybe so. Well, that's okay. Well, listen, we'll talk about the scams a little bit more, but let me read you another book about a scam called Shark Scam. You like sharks? I like sharks. They're kind of cool, aren't they? All right. Oh, okay. Well, let's talk about it after I read the story, okay? All right, here we go. Here's another book now called Shark Scam. Arlene, it's also taking place on the Galapagos. Arlene, a giant tortoise, was lounging on the shore on an isle in the Galapagos and trying to ignore a white-tipped shark named Whitey circling out in the bay. His pal, Cahoots, swam with him. They wouldn't go away. "Big A, sly Whitey shouted. "We've got a deal for you. You want to make some money? I'll tell you what to do." The tortoise stretched her long neck. "How?" she asked testily. "Investing in my business," he told her zestily. "Here's my idea," said Whitey. "Scuba diving's the rage. I'll sell undersea photos of divers in a shark cage. Visiting divers will love it. At 1 sardine a pop, give me some dough to start it. We'll make money nonstop. Maybe, the tortoise answered. I always need some cash. But what's the catch, she asked him. I won't do something rash. There's not a catch, said Whitey. Just give me 10 sardines. Double your fish in 1 week. Really, promise, no strings. Arlene should have known better, but she wanted some dough for a tortoiseshell waxer, a present for her beau. Okay, she slowly told him, pulling fish from her shell. Cahoots greedily grabbed them, then said a quick farewell. Cahoots snickered at Whitey. What a dummy, said he. She fell for it, said Whitey. Time for a buying spree. They spent Arlene's fish quickly. In a week it was gone, but they'd promised her 20. They needed a new con. They found Iggy Iguana, picnicking on the coast, eating a meal of seaweed and fruit on plantain toast. Hey, Ig, Sly Whitey shouted. Want to make some fast dough? I've got a deal that's foolproof. Here's what you need to know. I'm going to start a business selling kelp to surf bums. They really like plant diets. I'll be making huge sums. But I need 40 sardines to make my business go. Double your cash in 2 weeks. Will you give me the dough? Now, Ig was known for niceness, but he was quite naive. Doubling his fish sounded great. He wanted to believe. The sharks took his 40 fish without a guilty twinge. Arlene got 20, the other half they blew on a shopping binge. Arlene was none the wiser. She told all who would ask of the shark's great business skills, doubling her money fast. The sharks then found it easy to find critters to scam. They made up business stories that no one knew were shams. 160 from Billy for shark riding in the bay. 80 of that they paid to Ig. The rest they gambled away. Every scam would multiply by a factor of 4 to double each creature's fish and give the sharks their score. 640 fish from Niels, a lava lizard who thought the sharks would be developing a seahorse parking lot. 10,560 from Dash, a saltwater crab, to build Galapagos' first fleet of turtle-pulled cabs. The animals asked no questions. They didn't want to bother. If they had, they might have realized their cash came from each other. Arlene's dough came from Iggy. Iggy's came from Billy. The booby sardines came from Niels. They all looked pretty silly. Dash's fish were paid to Niels, gone in an instant flash, and each time the sharks would take an equal cut of cash. 10,240 was what the sharks now needed to pay off Dash and get their cut and see their scam completed. The only creature with that much was Billy's smart sister, Bess, the richest woman on the Isles and a true business success. The sharks planned their best con yet, a ballroom dancing show where boobies famed for their light feet could perform like dancing pros. Bess really liked the idea. She loved dancing so much, but she had questions to ask like rent, payroll, and such. She wanted to see the records from their other endeavors, cash flow, taxes, bank accounts. Bess was just too clever. The sharks decided they were done. They had no answers in store, so they grabbed their stuff, grabbed their fish, and headed to Ecuador. A few miles off of Galapagos, Officer Osprey swooped in. He told the sharks to head back home. Bess had reported them. Back in jail, both sharks fessed up. Their ventures were pretend, and all the fish that they had left was 1,510. The osprey gave those fish to Dash. It really seemed quite nifty, but the crab said, "No, I need another 1,050. Osprey went to the other beasts and told them they were stuck. All their profits were a scam. They had to give them up. They could keep just those amounts that they had invested. The double profits they had made, Osprey now requested. 850 sardines, they gave up all that gain. Still, it was 200 short to make Dash whole again. Luckily, the sharks had things. Osprey auctioned for sale. Pickled plankton, seaweed skirts, a barrel of sea ale. Osprey raised 200 fish and gave it all to Dash. The sharks were sentenced to 5 years, picking up seaside trash. No one gained, but no one lost. Lucky beast, it would seem. Others have suffered from this con. It's called a Ponzi scheme. Smart folks like Bess investigate when asked to invest in a biz. And if it sounds too good to be true, they find it usually is. Okay, so there you go. Those animals were really gullible, weren't they? They just kept handing over sardines to the sharks, not asking questions. And they were lucky because Officer Osprey was able to get back everybody's money for them. But this thing called Ponzi schemes, this is really common. People have been running Ponzi schemes, and people have been losing money to Ponzi schemes for centuries. And they keep coming back in new creative ways that these scammers will use. And usually, unfortunately, people lose a lot of money in Ponzi schemes. But I wanted my book to have a happy ending, so I made sure nobody lost money. Okay, good. So I hope you like the books. And now I think we can take questions, if you'd like.
All right, so first, let's give it up for Dr. Sheila Bair.
Oh, yeah, my pleasure. Thank you. Thank you.
And so a reminder to those that are watching across the district and elsewhere, if you have a question for Dr. Bair, please put it in the chat. I have it right here. I just want to give a quick shout out to Ethan from Glacier. When you asked earlier about borrowing money, he said borrowing money means you get money for a certain amount of time, but you have to give it back. So Ethan, thank you for your comment. Those, while we're waiting for them to put questions in the chat, if you have a question in the room, we'll take a couple. So if you raise your hand, I will repeat it so that everyone can hear it, and then Dr. Bair, you can answer it. So any questions in the room? Yes. So the question is, why did you decide to make these books?
Oh, that's a really good question. So most of my career, I've been in jobs that involve dealing with money, regulating banks and other financial institutions that are charged with handling people's money. And I've just seen all the mistakes that people make, and it really breaks my heart when families get into money trouble, because it can really be stressful. And so I had when I first started writing my books back in the early 2000s, I was the Assistant Secretary of Financial Institutions at the U.S. Treasury Department. And I actually started an Office of Financial Education back then, which is still going strong today. And at the same time, I had young children at home, and my husband and I would read picture books to them at night, because we just love picture books. We love the combination of words and pictures together. It's really a nice way to hear a story. And I thought to myself, picture books would be a great way to help people learn about money and the right way to handle money and manage money. And I also thought, because financial education, there's a real need for adults too. A lot of adults don't really understand money and how to handle it, and they lose money unnecessarily because of that. So I thought, wow. So the parents will read the book with their children, and maybe the parents will learn something too. In the back of my books, there's also a lot of nonfiction information, just educational information that parents can read, or teachers or other adults who are interested, and that can discuss it with the children. So that's where I started. My first book is Rock Brock and the Savings Shock. It came out, I wrote it in 2004. It came out in 2006, and I've been at it ever since. There are 8 books now in this series. Good question.
So let's go to the back. Braden? Forgot your question. 2, 3 down, Gabriel. What inspired you to become a book writer or an author?
Well, golly, ever since I was your age, I wanted to be a writer. How many of you would like to be a writer? You'd like to write? Yeah, yeah. So I love writing. I love creative writing. And I'm afraid I found out as I got into adulthood that writing is a really hard way to make money. So I went to law school and became a lawyer, and then eventually a financial regulator for most of my career. But I still maintain that love of writing. And I write a lot of adult stuff, too. I have a New York Times bestseller that I wrote for grown-ups about something called the Great Financial Crisis. And I write a lot of opinion pieces in newspapers and things like that. But I love creative writing, too. And here again, I thought the idea of writing picture books to help children and their families learn about money basics. And also I could use some of my creative writing talent. Hopefully there's some talent there. My creative writing ambitions as well. That's what got me started. But yeah, I've always loved to write. And ever since I was your age, I've loved to write.
All right, guys, hands down. I'm going to take one from the chat. This is from New River, 4th grade. What was your favorite book to write?
Oh, boy. Probably I love them all. I think probably the first one, Rock Brock and the Savings Shock. That was my first foray, and I think that turned out very well. Rock Brock and the Savings Shock is about this thing called compounding that I was talking about, how when you save money, compounding will make your money grow, grow, grow. And so it's kind of the reverse of this. So Billy found out how compounding will make his debt grow if you don't pay it. And Rock Brock and the Savings Shock was about savings and compounding, making your money grow. So that's a fun book. And I think we've donated some books here, so I'm sure you have that in your library, but you might want to read that one.
Yeah, just so you guys know, all of her books are in the library if you ever want to check them out. Another question coming from New River. Why did you use the setting of the Galapagos Islands for your book?
Yeah. So I love the Galapagos. I think that the animals there are just so interesting. And when you write picture books, you try to create stories that will be good stories that fun pictures can accompany them. Because, pictures are half the fun of a picture book. And I thought to myself, why these animals are so interesting and colorful and fun, and a good illustrator. And I have a good illustrator for both these books, a woman named Amy Jing. She does all the Galapagos books. Has done an amazing job. But I'm sure you have books on the Galapagos too in your libraries. You might check them out because the animals, it's a fascinating place and the animals are really, really wonderful.
All right, let's take another one from this side. Yes. Why do your books rhyme?
Well, not all my books rhyme. There's one called Isabel's Car Wash that does not rhyme, and then my grown-up books don't rhyme. But I just think rhyming is fun. It's harder. It is. It takes more time to tell the story in a way where you can get the rhythms and the rhyming words together. But I think it's lovely, and I think young people enjoy it. I get good feedback from young people that they enjoy the rhyming verse. It's just fun. And money can be intimidating. Like, oh, yeah, right, when you heard this program, oh, we're going to learn about money, how boring. But, rhymes can be fun, and I think I want to make this information entertaining and fun and accessible to the readers.
One from this side, right next to Macy, right next to you. Yes. So are you going to make more books?
Yeah, so I've got a new book. I just finished writing it. It'll be published next year. It's written for teenagers, and the title is How Not to Lose $1 Million. Okay? So you've probably heard about books. A lot of books out there say how to make $1 million, how to get rich, right? You see a lot of those books. But I find that the best way to build wealth, if you want to build financial wealth over the time, the first step is just not to lose money necessarily, right? The way the characters in this book do. So it's a longer book for not rhyming. It's just a long chapter book, but it's all about common mistakes people make with their money and how much they lose over time when they make these mistakes.
All right, I'm going to take two. There's two questions from, this is Miss Stewart over at Garden Hill, her class. There's two questions that kind of go hand in hand. So I'm going to read them off and then you can respond. How did you come up with the ideas for all the animals in books? And then how do you choose the titles for your books?
Yeah. So some of my books take place on Ganymede, which is an ice moon that rotates around Jupiter. And that, again, I just, in my reading and research, I just thought Ganymede, for a while there were scientists that thought there might actually be life, or just microbes or whatever on Ganymede. And I thought, well, let's invent a little princess who lives on the ice moon of Ganymede, because I thought, the environment of an ice planet, ice moon, could create some kind of funny, different situations from my stories. So I really, it just pops into my head. But I try to get ideas. You got to read a lot. If you want to be a writer, read a lot. Because, and I think travel too, if you have time and families to help you travel a little bit. I think travel and meeting new people and seeing new things can also be very inspirational. But I think I wanted fantasy venues, fantasy settings for my books, because I wanted them to be entertaining. I didn't want them to be threatening, and I certainly didn't want them to be boring. And so I think both Ganymede Moon and the Galapagos have served that purpose well.
Okay. Go ahead. What's your question? When did Shark Scam first come out?
I think that was 3 or 4 years ago now. I'd have to, yeah, that was about 4 years ago, I think, yeah.
Okay. Got one right here?
Why did you make the sharks different colors?
So, well, it's more for your illustrator,
Yeah,
but
it's
why
more
did they
for my
make the sharks
illustrator.
different colors?
Yeah, so I don't know, so you could tell them apart. Maybe you knew who was Whiting and who was Cahoots. That was really the illustrator's decision. We don't, I collaborate with them, and she sends me the drawings, and I give her some feedback. But I give the illustrators a lot of leeway, because I'm not artistic. My art is with the written word, not with the drawn picture. I'm no good at that.
There's a couple personal questions, not too personal.
That's
but it says, do you still work at the bank to help people learn about money?
Yeah.
And then 2, how many books have you sold?
Oh, golly. So I have a lot of different things I do now. I serve on boards of some businesses actually are not banks. I help provide oversight of some of these businesses. I'm an advisor to a couple of banks now. And I write books, and I travel and do events like these. So I have a mix of things that I do now. So I don't never really worked for a bank. I've been a bank regulator, but never really worked directly for a bank. And that's good, because I want to, I don't want to be, I respect banks. I think banks are a really good place to keep your money. But I don't want to be an advocate for banks. I want to be an advocate for you, the consumer, the depositor. So I try to maintain a little bit of distance. And, I'm sorry, what's the second
How many
part?
books have you sold?
Oh, golly, yeah. So, well, for Money Tales, we've sold about 120,000 now. And then my other books have probably sold about another 100,000. So maybe, I don't know, 250,000. I am, just guessing ballpark, combine them all together, the ebooks and everything. And the thing I like about children's books, Money Tales books in particular, is that they're what they call in the publishing industry evergreen. So like my New York Times bestseller, which sold very well, but it had a short life. It was topical, people bought it, and then sales kind of ebbed off. But my children's books, the sales are strong, sometimes even stronger year after year, because there's always a new generation of students reading them. And then, it spreads word of mouth. And they stay on the shelves of libraries forever. So again, Rock and the Saving Shock still sells several copies a year. That came out in 2006, but it's still a really strong seller.
All right. You remember your question, Brayden? Okay. So why do all these stories involve money and like saving of money?
Yeah. Well, I think writers should write about what they know, and money is something I know a lot about. Pretty much my whole career is built around things related to money, so I think that's important. You should write what you know about. That's an important lesson. And I want to help people. I want to help people protect their money. I love being chair of the FDIC, because my job there was to protect people's money. I want to help people keep their money safe. I want to help people build wealth. I want to help people avoid getting into money problems, which can be so stressful for families. So, and that's when you grow up. Find a career that, will have some meaning to you, that, find out what you want to do, what your goals are, and then pursue a career that will help you live up to those dreams. But my desire is to help people manage money, build wealth, protect their money.
Okay. And I know they're getting antsy, so we'll just do a couple more,
Okay,
and then
great.
we'll let them get the wiggles out. Okay. in the chat, it says, could you please explain to the students why it's important to think about what we want versus what we need
Oh, good question.
when spending money, and how
Yes.
setting financial goals can be beneficial to their future?
Yes, that's a very good, a very sophisticated question. Well, so you should, a really key component of when you're older and you're on your own, you got you're working and earning money, and got your own place, and you're spending money. You need to have a budget. Yeah, all families need to have budgets, and then you exactly that. You need to sit down. What are the things you need to spend money on? Who can come up with some needs? What do you have to spend money on? Yeah, what do you think? What is it?
Food.
Food, yeah, food's a need. Food's a need for sure. Yeah, what else? Yeah.
Go ahead.
Sure, just shout it out. That's fine. Yes, please. Little girl in the pink shirt.
School supplies for children.
Yes, your education. That's a need. Yes. What do you think a need is?
A
A house.
house.
You got to have a place to live. Yeah. How about getting around? Yeah. Well, you need furniture, right? You need your bed, you need a couch, you need a kitchen, right? You need a car too, right? Or you need a transportation. You don't always need a car. Sometimes you can use mass transit. Even better walk. But usually people have to spend money on cars and gasoline for the cars. Yeah. A car, yeah, absolutely. So you need to have a hard conversation with yourself. What do I really need to spend money on? And your budget, you should figure out how much money you're bringing in, so you know how much money you have to spend. And then you need to assign the amount of money you can spend for each of those things. And usually housing is the biggest part of a budget. Now, what you have left over, you should try to save of that as much as you can. Because savings is important. If you ever run into financial trouble, say you ever lose a job or have an unexpected illness or whatever, to have some savings to fall back on is really important. And then when you get old, like me, you start retiring, you're not working anymore. Having saved money over your life to have, what they call retirement savings, money you can draw on to live on, that's important too. And then after you do your savings and after you do your needs, then you can spend money on wants. Okay, what's the example of a want? Anybody want to? Yeah, what do you think a want is? Little boy in the gray shirt. Uh-huh. That's all right. Anybody, just shout it out. Yep, right back there, yeah.
Collector's item.
Yeah, so if you collect stamps or comic books or whatever, that's fun. You don't need to do that. You want to do that. You don't need to do that. Yeah,
Liam?
what do you I'll let you do this.
Liam, what's a want? Forgot. Cameraman, what's a want? Video games.
Yes, yeah, young people especially spend a lot of money on video games. Yeah.
What's a want? Hot Wheels setup.
Yep. Toys generally,
Yeah,
right?
Toys. Chris?
Yeah.
So she's saying something you want is something you don't really need. What is an
Well-
example of that?
Well,
Go ahead.
well, no, these are good examples. Sometimes it's hard. There's kind of overlap, right? So you need food, but you don't really need to go out to eat, right? So going out to eat, which is going to be more expensive than eating at home, that's kind of a want, not a need. But it's still nice to do, and hopefully you have money to do that. But that's a want. Even though it's food you need, it's cheaper to eat at home.
All right, last one right here. Dance?
Dancing, like dance lessons, you mean, and stuff? Yeah, that's probably a want. Though I do think exercise is a need.
Exercise
so you
is a
can-
need.
yeah.
All right, hands down. So, Dr. Bair, you've written, what, 9 books already?
8 in Money Tales.
8 in
yeah,
Money
and
Tales,
there's,
and there's one coming out next year.
right, uh-huh.
Do we have a date yet? Someone in the
Probably
chat wants to
September.
know.
They usually are released at the beginning of the school
So
year.
in the
probably
fall, September next
25,
year, we can
yeah.
look for your
Yeah,
new book
yeah,
to come out?
Yeah.
Okay. Any sneak peeks about the characters or the title, or get the inside
This
scoop
is,
here?
So since this is written for this is really written for young adults, high school students and college students. It's nonfiction.
Okay,
It's
nonfiction.
education, but it's still fun, right? I always try to make my books fun. So, I think people, I try to help illustrate silly things that people do, but everybody does them. But I help the reader understand really how silly it is and identify with that so that they do not do it. And so, really common things. Overborrowing is a big, big problem in this country. So understand debt at an early age, how dangerous it is, how you want to avoid it if you can. And when you do have to borrow, pay it back as fast as you can.
Okay, let's give a big round of applause for Dr. Sheila Bair.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh, thank you. I really enjoyed it. Thanks so much.
We thank you so much. Don't go anywhere because they want to take a picture
Oh,
with
great.
all the kids. So if you
Okay,
spin
good.
your chair around,
Okay.
and where's your, Chris, you want to come on down? All right,
Okay.
that's fine. She's going to be in the back. Don't you want to? All right, kids, spin it around, face that way. Adults want to come join us in front. For the online crowd, I just want to say thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for participating. You guys, I believe, have some guests at some of your sites, so they'll be doing some additional question and answering. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for joining us for this important financial literacy event. Have a great day.